Yo, we are back again. The boys talking some ball.
What's going on?
Little college football this week, week 11. It's already, 3 weeks to go in the season.
Crazy.
Flying by like a blur. But like I say, we coming to you a little late again this week. We've had just a lot of scheduling issues and drama and stuff we got to deal with, right? So we're here on a Thursday afternoon before the big week 11 games. We'll rehash back on what happened last week with our squads. Both far and nice teams didn't fare too well on the outcome list, but we'll get to that. But I guess we'll start first with the fighting Florida Gators taking that horrible loss, inexcusable loss at home, where you looked like you had the game in hand and you did everything right just to blow it. Missed the field goal to win the game because of a comedic error again on special teams, just to lose it in overtime where you can't stop KJ Jefferson and the Arkansas Razorbacks. Pig Suey ran wild against the Gators, and it was just a crappy, shitty loss, man.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Before we get to that part of the game, it's to let them jump up 14-0. I mean, that first drive, that was for Arkansas was a great scripted drive. And then the very next play, the most sure-handed person on the team gets stripped to let it go down 14-0. Pearsall getting stripped on the sideline. And it was just like, hey, man, you're good, but you're not taking on three people. Just go down or get out of bounds. And to see that, and then I'm sure as a Gator fan, you're looking like, damn, 14-0 already.
Yeah.
But I thought they did a good job of trying to, getting back into the game. The defense stepped up on those next 2-3 possessions to make Arkansas punt and Pearsall, making up for it and getting some good returns. They weren't like hella great returns, but they were good enough to give the Gators good field position and short field to get it 14-14.
Yeah, it was, like I say, 14-0 in literally 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like 2 minutes. Obviously, they scored in 11 seconds apart from after they went down the field 75 yards on 7 plays in like 3 minutes. The new offensive coordinator comes in, so they're running some different stuff, maybe, scripted plays, good play calling on them. And then, boom, you get the turnover strip 6, and you're like, all right, 14-0, like, like, what do we got to do here? So luckily, we settled in offensively, got some stops, like you said. I thought, again, Eugene Wilson has just been an unbelievable playmaker.
Yeah.
He looks like he's going to be a really good player. Mertz threw a damn dime on that touchdown to him.
He did. That was a great pass.
Yeah. So, like, so they get back in the game and tie it up. So you're like, okay. Then, you have a slow second quarter. Really, nobody scored at all in that second quarter, just 2 field goals. So you go to the half, tied up.
17, yeah.
And then, Arkansas came out and took the lead with a field goal in the third. And then, we scored later on with a touchdown from another good ball to Ricky Pearsall for 6 to take the lead going into the fourth quarter. So you're like, all right, let's go. We got the lead now.
Well, don't forget the missed extra point.
I was just about to say. So that was the kicker. You mishandle the snap. You don't get to like 23-20 where it should have been.
That wasn't on smack that time.
Yeah, a 4-point game. Now you're saying, okay, well, guess what? Arkansas's got to score 6. Well, Arkansas got the ball on that next possession, went down and kicked a field goal to tie the game, where they actually, if they forced them to kick there, they would have been up 24-23.
Right.
So then Smack came and got the field goal to finally take the lead again. And then we were just trading points back and forth.
Yeah.
A touchdown for Arkansas, and then we scored. And then, the late touchdown for Arkansas to tie it up. You're like, all right.
Well,
we got 2 minutes here. Let's go down and
what's crazy?
They did it perfect. Like, they went down and executed everything.
But what's skipping back a little bit is like in a group chat we're texting about it, like how KJ Jefferson looks slow and the Gators are doing a good job of not letting him run and do all that stuff. And then that drive, like you said, for them to take the lead, you let him rush for 55 yards. And he's just running over people, pushing people down. I don't know. I can't remember who's 14. Is it Castellano?
Yeah, that's the Castell. That's the freshman safety.
Dude, it's like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, weight room, buddy.
It was twice in that game. It's like, you better go low on that big boy.
That's 250 right there. Yeah, like I say, you did all that just
Mhm.
to then execute a 2-minute drive to go down to get the game-winning field goal. Like,
Yeah.
like I just don't understand. I'm literally sitting here watching the game with our buddy Nick. He was over here Saturday, and
Mhm.
I'm sitting. I'm in here doing coach mode. I'm like, all right, okay. Now after we got cross midfield, I'm like, all right, we got good time. We still got our timeout. We still got
Mhm.
we got good. We got to run some plays here, run some plays there, and then I'm literally going through scenarios of like, all right, here's what they need to do. They need to clock this. If they pick up anything inside the field of play, they need to run up, and they got plenty of time to clock it. If they
Mhm.
run anything outside, they need to get out of bounds. And literally, they hit the perfect play in the middle of the field,
Mhm.
and the offense is in perfect mode to like, let's go clock this thing. Next
Yeah.
thing you know, you look over to the left, and the damn field goal unit is running on the field. Like, like what are
What's
we
going
doing
on?
here? So then we get a damn penalty with too many men on the field because they, attempted a play or set up a play or whatever the penalty
Yeah.
was, 5 yards. So you go from a 38-yard, game winner to a 44, 43 yarder that he pushed, missed. So it sends you to overtime. Like, so
Yeah. But
like
but but
that's the team in a nutshell this year. Just
well,
the
before that
dumb
though,
stuff, man.
but before that, to before we get to overtime, you saw on that drive where ETN is so special.
Man,
And you're
trust.
just and even last year, we all talked about this. Is like, why isn't he the starter? I think Montreal's good, but ETN is just so special. I mean, to get that pass, to go 40, and then the very next play to run it in, what was it, like 15, 20 yards? And
Yeah.
you just see the difference in plays, like where Montreal, he's a good back, he's solid. But every time it seems like ETN is able to get the ball and the line gives him space. And then that first guy's not bringing him down if he makes it to the next level. And,
Yeah.
and steady week in and week out. And I'm just like, how is he not the starter? I
Yeah.
get
No,
that's
I
Willie's guy. And
trust.
it's
I
just
literally was like,
even
we
even in overtime, he wasn't even in the game.
Yeah, I literally said we scored too fast. Like I never thought I would have said that, but like we scored too
Yeah.
fast on that drive. 3 plays, 72 yards, and
Yeah.
it was a minute, and it was
Yeah.
like now we got to put the damn defense back on the field, who's already been struggling on these long
Yeah.
ass drives that Arkansas was doing. So you put
Hmm.
your defense right back in a bad position where they're not very good anyways.
Yeah.
And so never will I say you scored too fast. That's a bad thing. You got to get points, so you take them how you
Yeah.
get them.
Yeah.
But that was one of those moments where you're like, man, we drew up some good plays. We had some
Yeah.
obviously explosives from our playmaker. But
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because
no,
it's
it's
just
true. It's
we
true. It's
can't
true.
gloss over it, and it's just like week in and week out. I mean, he had 12 carries. They both each had 12 carries.
Yeah.
So you're saying
But
like they're
look at
splitting the
but
carries, but
look at the number. The number
oh
yards
yeah,
per
oh for
rush.
sure,
That's it.
for sure, it's different.
Almost 7 yards versus 3.
Hmm.
And
So
then
at
on
the
top of
beginning of
that,
this,
Montreal or ETN had the 41-yard reception.
yeah,
You know,
well, it's at the beginning of the season. I could see why you would want to pace his carries, his touches for the year, and
right?
not like put the number at a high number to where by the end of the year he's over like 200 touches. But as the season progresses, it's like, how do you not increase his workload?
Yeah,
And we're, we're grasping at straws here because they still scored over 30 points, but at the same time, it gets to a point in some games where you want to say we need to run the ball, give the defense some time off, and just grind it out. And it's just I just don't know. I think he's special and he should be getting the ball more. Just
yeah.
just
No,
my
I
opinion as an observer.
I agree. I think he should have 20 touches a game now.
Yeah,
It's like
easy.
him and Eugene. Like when you think about the
Yeah,
offense, you're like, okay, look how well Mertz has actually played this year.
yeah.
Completion percentage, all out.
Hmm.
Throwing the ball downfield, all that, whatever. But you have a weapon in ETN who can like score at any time. He's explosive, and you do have a good backup in Montreal. And then
Yep.
you have a surefire star in Eugene Wilson
And a
and
solid and a good possession receiver in Pearsall.
exactly. And then even your tight ends kind of coming along. So like you look at it and you're like, okay, what's the big problem? The black eye probably is the offensive line not being able
Yeah.
to protect, not being able to
Hmm.
open up the holes like we need to.
But
But
part of
all in
that
all, you're
is
like, this
also your
offense looks
complaint.
way better than what I thought it
Your
would look like.
one of your biggest complaints all year is Mertz holding on to the ball too long as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
He,
Yeah.
he needs to get rid of it
That's definitely on him. And I think that's him probably just trying to make a play or continue to
and
keep the
not
play
turn the ball
alive.
over.
you know, which he hasn't done, but a sack, you know, sometimes is like a turnover, you know, in a sense when you got to punt it or you put yourself in a long yardage and make yourself have to punt 2 plays later on first or second
Well,
when you take the sack. But
let's finish up OT because there's a couple other pointers I want to point out
yeah,
about
but
the
like I
game
say,
yesterday.
basically they screw the whole deal up, have to go to OT,
Yeah.
you know, and then they
I mean,
just
but like you say, even if you get to that point, that missed extra point is huge
yeah,
because
for
you're still
sure.
up one. So I wasn't on smack, but the missed the field goal, the game winning field goal, you're just like, dude.
Yeah, he's got to nail that. He's been good all year. He's making
Yeah.
50 yarders plus. You
Mhm.
know, the pressure got to him, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
big kick, game winner, and you basically missed. And then
Yeah.
that happens, you know.
And then overtime, how do you not get the ball at Pearsall and how do you not have ETN on the field?
Yeah, you basically went, you know, 4 yards and 3. You didn't even get a
Yeah.
first down, you know, so you had to settle for the field goal.
I
And
mean,
then,
yeah. I mean, Bordingham's been stepping it up this year, but I don't want to make him the focal point in OT.
no, definitely not. I mean, like I say, he's been kind of hit or miss too. And he's been, you know, he
Yeah.
showed up here, he showed up there. But like I say, bad loss all around just because it's just, you know, this is one of the ones where you needed it, obviously, to get to
Yeah.
6 wins. This is one of the ones you felt like you played good enough to win,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in that situation. But it's just like, you know,
And
they're just not there.
no,
They're just not there.
and how is the season flipped? Whereas the beginning of the season, you're saying the offense is struggling and the defense is playing great
Right.
in those first 3-4 games. And now it's flipped the other way where you're like, okay, the offense, it's not world beating offense, but you're still putting up points. You're scoring 30 points. You're looking good on
Right.
drives. And, you know, you're just not finishing some drives, you know, the Georgia game, you know, but
Yeah.
whatnot. But you look better than what you looked in the beginning of the season. And then the strength of the team you thought going into it has given up 30 plus points in the last 3 games.
Yeah. No, I mean, offensively, after the Kentucky debacle where they just got railroaded early and got down so big, you know, they scored 38, obviously against Vandy, 41 on the road at Carolina. They put 20 up on Georgia, whatever, number 1 team, and they scored 39 last week. I mean, so the offense is not the issue right now.
Yeah.
So it's like we got to stop some people. So I mean, it's just one of those things where, you know, this is kind of how I felt like the season would go. Where would they find those 6, 7 wins that I thought they could get?
Yeah.
This was one of them potentially.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the other ones were, I said you had to beat Kentucky. Well, you didn't beat Kentucky, but you beat Tennessee, so you could flip-flop that one. You had to beat South Carolina this year, okay? So now the next one that I said they had to get was Missouri. Well, Arkansas,
Missouri,
but Missouri was like the one down the road that I was like, they got to get that one because I feel like they're on the same level as Missouri. Well, guess what? Now as we're 10 weeks in the season, Missouri's pretty damn good, so I don't expect us to win that one either. So you literally have to steal one of these next 3. You know,
which one do you get?
Is it possible? Sure. I mean, you got to play the game, but the likelihood of, you know, winning in Baton Rouge or winning at Columbia, Missouri, or at home against Florida State when all there is on the line for the Noles, you know, it's one of those things where I don't see where you get one. Now, granted, guess what? If the offense continues to play the way they are, then that means you're at least going to be in the ball game. So you're also playing up against a terrible defense in LSU. So can you win a shootout against LSU? I doubt it, but I mean, at least you got to play the game. But it's just where we are right now.
Here's before we move on to the next one. It seems like every week or every other week we're talking about Billy not knowing game situation. I'm not saying he doesn't know game situations, but is he too focused on the offense to where he's not paying attention to say field goal on the field, off the field? Because those are things you practice every week where you're like game situations where you're like, all right, you do the 2-minute drill, you have the field goal unit on the sideline, and the coach is saying, all right, field goal unit, be ready, be ready, be ready. But they're not arbitrarily just running on the field. And you see the disconnect because there's no way in the world the offense should be running down to get, you know, to spike the ball, and the field goal unit is running on at the same time. So that tells me that there's some kind of disconnect between the offensive play caller, the head coach, and the game-changing coordinator, which 2 of the 3 is one person. And it's just you just don't see that, and that could have caused, because you go back to last year's TCU Kansas State game in the Big 12 championship,
right?
And those mechanics of They're getting down the field.
How
They
they
spiked the
executed that
ball.
field
Well,
goal
they
late
didn't
and
even
all that.
spike the ball.
Yeah, no,
They got down the field. They ran off. The field goal team ran on with like
yeah,
3 seconds left and got the kickoff.
yeah.
So
No,
that tells me that's
yeah,
on
they did it
coaching.
without a timeout. So it's like
Yeah.
my thing is you're either not practicing this enough situational
Yep.
stuff in practice, which
Mhm.
I love situation. I used to love when we do that at Trinity where we would do our
Oh,
situational
yeah.
stuff. And
You
it's
have
like,
to.
V-Man will be like, all right, Sponge, give me some scenarios. Let's run through what should we do here? This,
Mhm.
that, and it would be like, it would be fun because you're trying to get that, practice that stuff. So,
Yeah. So
um,
everyone is ready and is
e-
not catching anyone off guard.
exactly. And I get injuries happen and things happen fast and all that stuff. And you don't
Yeah.
realize, hey, Johnny, the edge protector, he's out and we don't even know. And then, I get all that stuff sometimes, but again,
If it's one person running on the field,
well,
you
no,
can say, well,
yeah,
he's just not paying attention.
well, apparently they what Billy said in the presser this week was they actually allow one of the players, I don't know if it's the holder, the kicker, or who, he basically has an alert call that says run on the field. So
No,
he actually
no,
gave it to an authority to a
no,
player to make
no,
the call, which
no,
is crazy. That's crazy
no.
that
That
the player
I
could be
don't.
like fire, 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 and then they
Keep
all
that. You know what? Keep that to yourself. As a head
yeah,
coach, you don't say that out loud. That is the
yeah.
dumbest thing to ever say.
And
That tells me that you have no idea of what's going on because he's so. And I promise you, I didn't see it on film or whatever. That tells me he's probably like yelling at Mertz to spike it, or he's looking at his play sheet, or he's doing something else to where he's not managing, multitasking multiple different things,
yeah,
where you got to get the game-changing coordinator out of there, or you need an Ernie up in the box like Bill B and let you know game situations as you're getting down the field. It's just he's not a player, he's just a guy saying, Coach, got to do this, this, and this, and everyone's on comms listening. Like
yeah,
we've seen this too many times this season where special
yeah.
teams
The
or
double
big,
number,
yeah,
the jumping over the
like
shield, all that
how?
stuff. Yeah, it's either they don't know it or they don't. But here's the crazy part: I just said they don't know it. They literally said in that Kentucky game they asked about jumping over the shield like the week before the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like
So
so,
what's the disconnect?
so
What's the disconnect?
exactly. It's
And
either
I
just
think
the
this is
connection with the
another.
player conversation, the repping it out in practice, the situational stuff. Here's the deal too. I was big on they got to hire a special teams coordinator. When I actually thought about it too, a lot of teams now don't have a technical special teams coordinator. Like Georgia doesn't have one, for example. You think about sometimes too, special teams like the line works with the line coach does the line stuff. The receiver
Mhm.
coach works with the receiver tight end, works with the gunners or the edge guys, this, that, and the other, and the kickers are their own specialists in a sense. But you have a designated maybe maybe the tight ends coach or the D line coach or whoever is kind
Or
of like
even
the
the head
guy on the
coach.
sideline or the head coach, the guy on the sideline that's like, okay, you know, we got look at the situation here. Time we got 2 minutes, guys.
Yeah.
Field goal team needs to be ready. Be on me. Listen to my call. Listen to this.
But you
You got to
can't
have
have
all
that on
that.
a player. You can't have that on a
No,
player.
no, it's definitely not. Definitely not.
That's and it's probably the one player whose head's up his ass during the game, not even paying attention, sitting on the bench eating
Yeah,
peanuts or
it's
something.
probably the damn holder. It's probably who it
Right.
is.
The last person it should be, and it shouldn't be thrown on the kid anyway, in
Right.
my opinion. That should be on a coach to figure out this is what we're doing at this time. And it's just one time you say, okay, we can let it slide. The double number, we can let it slide. But it's like as the season goes on, you're seeing it more and more with the Gators, and you're just like, what are you guys doing? What are you practicing?
Yeah,
Like
they got to clean up
Your
some special
Thursday
field
practice
stuff.
or your Friday practice should be you're not in pads, you're going over all situations, and you're like, all right, even if you designate it like you say, a game analyst or whoever on the sideline, one of your 90 million coaches on the sideline that shouldn't be a kid to let everybody
Right.
know, go on the field, off the field, or whatever. And it just looked bad. And they kind of got bailed out
Yeah,
because,
I thought it was gonna be a runoff. I
well,
did.
two things. It could have been a runoff, or Arkansas could have did what Utah was doing to USC or
You
whoever
just
it was a couple of weeks ago. Get
right.
the biggest, slowest guy and just say, hey, just run on the field and the clock's going to run out because they have no timeouts. But the situation worked out. You got the overtime and you lost in overtime.
Yeah, no, exactly. That didn't even kill us. It was more so just
Yeah.
you basically could have avoided overtime. You
Yep.
had the game won,
Yep.
that type of deal.
Yeah.
So it hurts because you see where this team can. there was a question that was posed to Gator Dave had Shane Matthews on earlier this week, and they were talking about where the team is now. So I'll ask you this question because you know what I'll say. So you're an outsider looking in the season so far. Is this Gator team right now better than they were when they played at Utah week 1? Are they better?
I think they are better in certain situations. In a sense, yes, they are better. I'll give them that. They are better. I mean, because you look at the offense and you look at Mertz as the season, Gator fans are still complaining about the side-to-side passing, but they have been pushing the ball down the field more. They're running the ball efficiently against certain teams. Just offensively, they look way better, clearly, because like you rattled off the scores. So they're putting up points, and then defensively, they've regressed.
Yeah, no, like I say, I think part of that too was the reason why the defense was so good was Utah really didn't put up numbers in week 1, and then they played 2 cupcakes. So the numbers got really inflated. And then on top of that, they front run Tennessee. So the first 4 games, you're like, oh, maybe this defense is pretty good. Yeah. And then you finally,
you play 2 backups. You play 2 backups against Utah.
Yeah, well, like I said, they didn't even – that was just like week 1. They got up early. They kind of just controlled week the 1. Clock, all that. And then you had the 2 easy games. Then, like I say, you got up big on Tennessee. Tennessee hadn't really been rolling.
Even the 2 easy games didn't look – like you say, that's why I say the offense looks better, because even in the 2 easy games, the offense didn't. Yeah, one game you kicked off field goals.
They scored 22 points against Charlotte, so like I say, I think
if they played Charlotte today,
they probably put a number on them.
50.
Yeah. And I think so. I think as I was agreeing, I think the team is better, but now the schedule's tougher. You won some of the games, great. You beat Tennessee. Good. You got that road win against South Carolina. It's just, so you're saying, all right, you look at the youth of the team and how they're playing. Can the defense get better? You're playing a lot more younger guys. You've had some injuries now too, with Shamar James being out for the season. So they're, are they where I want them to be? No. But I mean, again, we're literally a game or 2 off, like record wise, of where I thought they would be. So how did they look was the biggest question I had going in, optics and all that stuff. And fine. Like, it's time to, people need to pause on the whole, like, let's just chill out. Let's see how the rest of the season goes. If they get beat 50-0 against LSU,
it's year 2.
Exactly. Like,
it's kind of, it's same with my team. It's year 2.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's where we're going right now. Perfect segue, because you as a Canes fan can't be feeling good after the start of the season, and now just the last 3 to 4 weeks have just been dreadful offensively. Tyler Van Dyke, what is going on, dog?
The problem is defenses look great. I won't say great. The defenses look good, because talking about this NC State game, it was only a 10-6 game for the longest. NC State got 10 points at the end of the game when it was kind of over and everyone knew it was over. That's when they got their 10 points.
Yeah, what did we say? Literally, what did we say last week? This game can't be 17-6 going into the 3rd, 4th quarter.
Yep. Well, the problem is it's.
But I had you guys in the lead 17-6.
Yeah. The problem is the quarterback position. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. I like TVD, but the last 4 or 5 weeks have shown, ever since the Georgia Tech game, every defense we've played against, we're going to just do this drop 8, rush 3. I mean, my man got sacked from the turf on Saturday. Yeah. Like, I don't know if you saw the play.
Like, who sacked him?
He just fell down.
The sniper got him up top.
Yeah. Got him good. So the problem is the quarterback position. What do we do this week? I'm not trying to jump ahead, but what do you do with him in his situation at this moment? And I think it's twofold. It's not all on him. I would say 70% is him, and the other 30% is on the offensive play calling. Right. Because if you know this is what they're going to run, and you know this is what he's doing, why wouldn't you run more shorter routes? Why wouldn't you run more swing routes? Why didn't you get the ball to Brashard Smith? Right. Like, we got to be there. The problem is there's no creativity in the offense since week 3 when we played Texas A&M.
Yeah, how does Brashard Smith not have a carry or a touch or a catch or a run?
Nothing. He had zero.
We literally talked about how electric he's been the last couple of weeks.
You've had zero, and that's been the problem. And I think is Shannon Dawson that bad? is TVD that bad, or have they tried to keep it simplified for him? But at the same, but it's simplified for him, and you know what teams. If you literally know week in and week out, a team is just going to rush 3 players and drop 8 in zone, and you're telling me you're still taking shots down the field, and he's not only taking shots down the field, he's throwing the ball behind everyone. So he's just missing bad. So like, why, when they run screens, they look great, because I'm like, well, of course the screen's going to look 8 because they're only rushing 3 and 8 guys are dropping back. So as long as the lineman could get in front, you could at least get the first down, which they've been doing. And like I say, it's all on 9. I just don't understand why they haven't changed up route concepts. We're running the same 8 plays we've been running all year.
Yeah.
Literally run up the middle.
Turnover Van Dyke is like reared his ugly head.
11 turnovers in 5 games.
Yeah. And like I say that, now, Mark Fletcher was the bell cow this week.
Mm-hmm.
So the freshman, that's good. Again, your running game has been pretty solid.
I forgot one more person. I forgot to blame one more person, and that would be the head coach.
Yeah, Mario. Why not?
It's remember when we had the conversation when they made the hire, and you asked me, did I like the hire? And I'm just like, I like the hire, but I know what I'm going to get. And this is pretty much what I knew we were going to get, was a stubborn head coach that's going to say, this is what I want to do. I want to shorten games. I want to be physical. I don't want this wide open offense. This is what I want to do. And now it's good and bad. I like Mario, but at the same time, it's like, hey man, bring in a guy and just let him coach. It's kind of like Dabo and Garrett Riley.
Yeah, Dabo, and even Billy, even going to Billy. Like Billy, yes, your offense now looks better, but what happens is stubbornness, like you said.
Yep.
And when you want to do these things like shorten the game, run the ball and be physical, that's fine. That's good. That's not saying like you can't do that. But what happens now is you almost pinch yourself or handcuff yourself into a very thin margin for error, meaning don't turn the ball over or you're going to freaking lose, where some teams, Penix can throw 2 or 3 picks, but it doesn't affect them at all because they're scoring 40 and 50 points.
Well, not just that. They're being creative on offense to where you can't figure us out. We're not running the same thing where the Miami situation is kind of different than the Florida situation and different than the Dabo situation. Is like, we know what you're doing at this point.
Right.
Like, you're not as great as he wants to be, to where you're a 2020 Georgia or Alabama where we know what you're doing.
Right.
But ain't no way in the world you're stopping what Georgia 2 years. Everyone knew what Georgia was doing. We knew what those great years. You knew what I was doing, but guess what? They got those dudes.
Yeah, no, like I said,
it doesn't matter.
Think about the change in just Saban and Kirby, for example, of what
evolve.
That Georgia and here's the thing that's crazy is this year's Alabama looks different because he just doesn't have a Bryce Young or a Mac Jones or one of these guys that has been Tua, so Milroe is doing something different to where it's a different look. So like I say, the Canes.
But it goes back to that Blake Sims look though, when Blake Sims was the quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. He knows how to adapt to his guy. So my thing is you have a guy who can sling it in Van Dyke, and you, in my opinion, you have weapons too. We've talked about the receiving core. We love all those guys, even the tight ends, backs, all that. So it's like, what has happened to this offense? What happened to the offense that we saw against A&M, against even
I'd pay to see
North Carolina loss,
that half orbit route they ran against A&M.
Right,
that's been the most creative play we've ran all year.
Yeah,
and he probably stole that from somebody that week. Actually, he stole it from the Eagles because I remember the Eagles ran it in the Super Bowl or playoffs with Devontae.
Yeah.
And they stole it from Alabama because Alabama ran it with Devontae in the championship game when he had 200 yards receiving in the first half.
Yeah, no, I remember.
So, which I know offensive coordinators do. Everyone steals from everyone. Not like Michigan steal, but you get what I'm saying. But and it's like, all right, what have we done creatively? And if Tyler's been the problem, then it's a coaching thing, and we still should be more creative. Like, why haven't we ran fly sweeps with Brashard? Why haven't you had, even when JoJo Trader when he was healthy, you could run fly. I think we ran maybe 2 all season with him. You have guys to do creative things if you feel like Tyler is the issue and you're trying to get through games because you don't want to burn red shirts.
Yeah.
But you got to do that. If you can't worry about, well, our defense is playing lights out, and you can't say we can't put the defense in a bad situation. Well, hell, number 9's been putting them in a bad situation all damn year.
Exactly. No, for sure.
I mean, he
I
fumbled, and
agree.
then he gets a sack. Like when it was for Carolina to get NC State to get 10 was a Tyler fumble that put them in field goal range. They didn't score. They were already in the red zone when they got the field goal.
Yeah.
And the defense stepped up, stopped them, held them to 3, and then it made it, I think it was 10-3 at that point.
Yeah. 4 turnovers, man. Like I say, it's just,
you can't win like that. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And that's the problem.
When you're turning the ball over and then, you're putting your defense in short field binds, you just put them on the field too much because they're having to play so much more because your offense put them back on the field, short change, all that quick stuff. Like it's just a recipe. Yeah, it is. And like, it's disappointing because I had high expectations and high hopes of where Miami was looking, and part of it too, I think, what begs the question too is, going back to the early part of the season, like, okay, you played Miami, Ohio, Bethune, and Temple. Those are cake games. Those are easy. You got the big win against A&M. A&M's turned out to be not so hot, but they're still a good team. It's A&M's so weird. Like I still respect A&M, and I still feel like A&M can beat anybody they play.
That's the crazy thing. A&M could beat any team in the country, and they could lose to the worst team in the country.
Yeah, or they could lose to everybody.
Like if A&M beat, just say Washington, Oregon, Michigan, or Ohio State, would that surprise you?
Yeah, no, not really.
Because Jimbo, at the end of the day, as much as we bag on Jimbo, Jimbo's still a decent or good big game coach per se.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they lost to Washington 50-15, you'd be like, hey, it doesn't surprise me one bit.
Right. Yeah, no,
that's the weird thing about Texas A&M.
Yeah, no, like I say, so it's like you can't bag them and be like, Favre, like that was a great win you guys had in week 2 when it was everybody was 1-1. Now they're 5-4 now. Are they going to even get to a bowl game? They're going to probably beat Mississippi State and Abilene Christian, so that'll give them 7 wins. Can they beat LSU on the road to close out the year to go?
Would it surprise you if they beat LSU?
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. But
it would not surprise me if they finished the season 8-5,
8-4.
8-4. Would that surprise you if they finish 8-4 and then go to the bowl game and finish 9-4?
Yeah, exactly. And everybody be like, "That's a terrible year." Part of it is because, and the crazy part is, you look at their losses. They obviously you guys put the big number on them, but I mean, they lost to Bama by 6, they lost to Tennessee by a touchdown, and they lost last week to Ole Miss by 3.
All 3 of those teams are in the top 20,
top 15. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know where Tennessee was, but top 15.
I think Tennessee's like
16, 17.
Like, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there,
but, yeah. So top 20. But, so again, flipping gears here, it's like, so you're like, okay, Miami, it's like North Carolina game was like, all right, that was going to be the big check. And, it was a heck of a game. And then now North Carolina's falling off the wagon. So you're like, okay, what is going on here? And then just turnover.
What have I been saying? It's a week. College football is literally turned into week to week because you really don't know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, hell, USC almost got Washington.
Yeah. No, but Washington's been playing with fire.
You just really don't know. Yeah, you just really don't know, and your team got to come out and show up every week and play. I mean, going to the next team. Hey, you find a way to win into that game. You say you go any top team in the country, and you say you feel pretty good getting a W at the end of it.
Yeah, no, like I say, that was this was case in point, trap game. Got some guys out game, start slow game. Pitt got called out game. Whatever you want to call it. Like, and so what happened? Pitt played a little bit inspired, played tough. It was kind of an ugly start, but again, Florida State. What's the name of the game? Find a way to win, get out of there with a win, and it's crazy to think we were talking about it before. It's like no Keon Coleman, no Johnny Wilson, your top 2 pass catchers are out. So you're like, man, score 24 points. You won by 3 touchdowns. Check. That's pretty good. But then you look at Jordan Travis. He threw for damn 360 yards. So it's like, who cares about Johnny Wilson and, Keon Coleman? Yeah, you still want them in there, but that's pretty impressive to do that with some backups. But what's weird about it is they just didn't get a lot of points. You would think if Jordan Travis threw for 360, they would have scored 40, but again, you can't even knock it if that is the issue. You know what I'm saying? So Trey Benson still had a successful day on the ground. They still ran the ball well for over 100. Defense held them to 7 points. Florida State did what they needed to do. It's Florida State.
Yeah.
Florida State.
I mean, you watching the game, Pitt had its opportunities. I mean, you get a turnover from Tiafoli to win at the midfield. You didn't score. You get a big play, the Mumfeld, an 80-yard bomb, and Ventrell Cypress strips him at the goal line and then jumps on the ball to get a touchback. Somehow Pitt still holds them, gets the lead 7-0, and had another. So you think about it, they had opportunities to take the lead, to be up 14-0, and Jordan JT's figuring out, okay, who's going to be my guy this game? He's dumping it to the tight ends. The tight ends had as a group, had a pretty big game. And then Ja'Kai Douglas just steps up and just takes over. It's like, hey, if those guys aren't here, someone has to do it. And they stepped up and they got the W 24-7. The defense did its job in certain, like they gave up some big plays, but at the end of the day, it was a bend but don't break. They didn't break when they got into the red zone.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I say, Florida State did everything they needed to do to just get out of there with a win and get ready. Guys, let's get some guys healthy. I don't know what the status is or what happened to Keon Coleman. Was he a healthy scratch? Were they load management? I know Johnny Wilson's been banged up.
I want to say it was because they probably knew going into the Pitt game, we should beat Pitt.
Right.
Let's get these guys healthy for the stretch run. Yeah. And the stretch run starts with Miami.
Exactly. And like I say, that's, All right, bump Florida State. We'll talk about them when the breakdown against you guys here, but we'll move on to a couple of the other big games that were last weekend. We'll start off with that 3:30 Georgia-Missouri game. Was pretty damn good game. Missouri played well, but like I say, Georgia flexed their muscle, and Carson Beck still continues to play well and consistent all season. He's been lights out. Missouri, took their shot, and they banged with them for a while, but Georgia just was a little too much in the end. And like I say, Georgia's been damn consistent all year. I thought Missouri going into the game was a really good team, and they didn't. It's not surprising that they were in the game, but I figured Georgia would win. I thought Georgia would maybe cover. Obviously, they missed it by 6 or something. It was like a 14 to 17 point line. They won by 2 scores still, but Georgia's pretty damn good, and Missouri looks pretty good too for like the Gators' sake in 2 weeks. But Georgia was impressive, and they, like I say, I'm not surprised by it at all.
No, you shouldn't be surprised. I think Carson was 21 of 32, 254 with 2 TDs. Offensive line struggled a little bit, but I think you got to give credit to Missouri's D-line. They did a great job of harassing them more than what teams have done this year. You haven't really seen that. Even in the Gator game, no one was getting near Carson most of the year. And I thought Missouri did a great job. Schrader had 100 and some yards rushing. Cook brought the element of QB run a little bit, but not like to the extent of what they're going to see this week with Jackson Dart. Right. So that kept the Georgia defense on their heels. And the biggest thing, what we were all concerned about, what we were all talking about when Bowers went down, who's going to be the next guy to step up? Well, they have Ra Thomas, Lad McConkey, Dominic Lovett, Rosemai, Jack Saint, and Oscar Delp. And those guys have been
McConkey's been the guy the last 2 weeks against Florida and Missouri. Almost had 100.
But you can't dismiss the other guys.
No, they didn't. I mean, they didn't have huge games. Like Dominic Lovett had the touchdown. Delp had a touchdown, which was big.
But what I'm saying, you can't single out one guy. So
no, for sure. Like I say, that's kind of what Kirby I think knew. Like, hey, all right, we don't have to throw it to Bowers 7 times, 8 times, 10 times a game.
Good. That's good for the development of Carson, to where those first couple games he was just locked in on Bowers. He's locked in. So it could have been a blessing in disguise for him to get hurt.
No, it's gonna be great because when he gets inserted back into that, you're like, oh, look at this freaking
Oh,
toy that we
I
got.
got my toy back.
Yeah. So I
I
mean,
mean, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the other big element too was Cook turned the ball over 2 times. You
I
can't do
was,
that
yeah,
if you
yeah.
want to win against the number 1 team in the country. You
Nope.
can't give them gifts. You
Yep.
can't give them,
that pick he threw to the big man Stackhouse.
Yeah.
With like 7:50 left in the game, you just can't do that right there. And
Yeah.
Georgia was able to go up, was it 30-21, and then
that was it. That was the
or
that
sorry,
was the,
20, yeah.
yeah.
It
They
was
scored late there.
27-21, and
Yep,
then another field
27-21.
goal.
Yep.
Yep. And then he
No,
had
like I say,
another bad pass, and
Georgia did what I thought they would,
yep.
and like I say, they got a big one that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But the other game, the big one, was the night game, obviously, with the Bama Crimson Tide taking down the Brian Kelly and Jaden Daniels show on in T-Town. It was a hell of a game, back and forth, a lot of fireworks. The 2 quarterbacks came to play, and I mean, they were balling. Jaden Daniels obviously got knocked out of the game in that 4th quarter, but Milroe had a hell of a game. And like I say, they're finding different ways to win each week in a sense. This was a week where their best receiver had 3 catches. Jermaine Burton wasn't even featured. It was really the Jalen Milroe show, and he was killing them on the ground. But it was a fun game. But what happens when you play LSU? You got to finally, like tennis, you got to break that serve and get a stop, and then kind of get up. And that's what they did. They got they got a punt, and they got the interception that Jaden threw, and that put them up by 2 scores. And it was ultimately what did them in.
I still think it would have been entertaining if he didn't get hurt on the Dallas Turner hit.
Yeah.
I think they probably could have got it to a 1-score game because that offense is so explosive. I mean, Malik Neighbors had 10 catches for 176.
Yeah, no, Neighbors, he's been going off. He had some drops in the game too, but
those receivers have drops, a lot of drops during games.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference in the game is this. Listen to this one. Jalen Milroe on 3rd down versus LSU. 5 for 5 passing for 93 yards, converted 4 first downs, 6 carries for 53 yards, converted 5 first downs.
Yeah.
They were 11 for 14 on 3rd down.
That's where exactly. They killed them. They converted so much to continue drives. On the flip side, LSU didn't. Like, what was amazing to me is the ground game for Jaden Daniels in this one. I mean, he's been the leading quarterback rusher the last 2 seasons in college football, so it's not a big surprise.
Both quarterbacks.
The crazy part about it is a lot of the Jaden Daniels runs aren't designed.
No,
they aren't runs. It's literally him being able to extend a play and just scramble for like 50 yards. You're like, dude, get this guy down. He's so crazy magician like.
There were times in the game. Did you notice Alabama had 2 guys spying him?
Yeah, and they just couldn't get to him.
And it still didn't. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. He still was able to get out of there.
The running game besides Jaden Daniels was putrid for LSU. It was like so they don't run the ball. It's either a Jaden Daniels scramble run for a big play or a Jaden Daniels big pass down the field, to one of those receivers we talked about.
It's boomer bust.
It's a high flying offense, and it was
Bama. It's a fun offense to watch. It was a fun game up until that point where he got hurt, and once he got hurt, you were like, but nothing to take. Looking at this Alabama team right now doesn't look like the same Alabama team in week 1. And even that the USF game, we're like, man, Bama may have 3 losses this year.
Right.
And now you're like, does anyone want to play that team? They might be the scariest team in college
I guarantee
football.
If I asked my buddy Justin Carter, the big Georgia Bulldog, if he wants to play them in a couple weeks in Atlanta, he would say, hell no. Can somebody upset them so I don't have to play them?
Because their strength on offense is Georgia's weakness on defense.
Yeah, a running mobile quarterback. A running back at quarterback who can actually throw it a little bit. Like,
if those safeties come down creeping.
About KJ Jefferson, compare KJ Jefferson to Jalen Milroe. Like, size wise, they're comparable, but out of there versus slow and steady KJ looks like he's running a quicksand. Milroe is out of there sometimes, man.
He shot out of a cannon on that first touchdown. The RPO.
Dude is moving.
LSU sucked in.
The other flip side too is, they've continued to get Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams involved as the other backs in the run game, and they've
Yeah.
steadily came on. And so,
Well, I think
this was
that
the
helps when the
last test.
quarterback can go out the backside.
No, exactly. And this now it's all set up for, you got to think Bama closes out, beats Kentucky, beats Chattanooga, and beats Auburn. Just, so they're like pegged to be right there. They're going to play Georgia, so that's going to be. We're not going to fast forward 3 weeks, but it's looking like setting up the matchup for maybe an undefeated Georgia and a one-loss Bama for a spot in the Final Four. So
yeah.
Like I say, Bama's playing great. Kudos to Nick and how he's adapted. And everybody wanted to throw away and talk about hell. One of those SEC guys said that Saban and them were going to lose like 4 or 5 games this year.
Remember after the South Florida game?
Yeah, when
they were talking about fire Nick Saban.
Yeah, well,
it's time for him to retire.
They were all on. They were bagging Milroe just because they lost the Texas game where he played pretty good and they were in the game.
Yeah.
And so they basically bench him. And then I think, circling back to that, I think what we thought came to true, where Nick was like, you know what? Screw this. We're going to beat South Florida. I don't give a crap. I'll bench Milroe to show you who the hell we got back here as his backups.
Yep.
So y'all can shut the hell up. Get off my back.
I didn't need inside information to tell me that. I knew that.
That's one of those, you know what? Hey, Jalen, listen, I'm going to sit you down this week, son. And all right, we'll win this game without you. And it was ugly. He probably was like, man, I was a little closer than comfort, but we did it. Now you've been back inserted, been ripping it ever since. I mean, you think about that stretch they went on after they had to play, Texas. They played terrible at South Florida, and then literally had to play Ole Miss, Mississippi State, A&M, Arkansas, Tennessee, LSU. That's been their so they've played the better teams.
Good opponents. They've played good opponents.
So they're playing good ball.
They weren't world beaters, but
no,
as a schedule, that's a pretty good. Not too many teams can make it out of that without 1 or 2 losses.
Right.
In the country. I don't care who you are.
Right. And they went out undefeated. They held that
vaunted
they held that vaunted Ole Miss offense to 10 points, so
they shut down Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Remember, exactly. I remember picking Ole Miss.
Exactly. That's where we'll get to the who we got this week too. But I guess let's jump into that. I guess my bad. There was a few other games besides those. I know we're running long on the recap week, but that early slate had some tight games. There was a lot of good games at noon last week that were all kind of like, look at this game. It's kind of tight here. Why is Texas up big and now all of a sudden Kansas State's up, and then back and forth, and then finally Texas was able to win that one, which was a wild finish.
That was a wild game, going up 17-0 and then still ended up in overtime.
Right.
I think a lot of that contributes to having a backup quarterback and Malik Murphy in there who turned the ball over, and then one surprising fumble, Jonathan Brooks putting the ball on the ground, and it gave Will Howard and K-State an opportunity. Will Howard had a great game.
He
26 for 42, 327, 4 TDs. I didn't like the play calls at the end of the game. Not against that Texas defensive line. You're going to go empty back, empty, gun. Dumb. And, Texas. Hey, if you're Sarkisian and a Texas fan, you just want to get these next couple weeks under your belt, get W's until Ewers comes back, get to the Big 12 championship game. You're still sitting pretty for a playoff spot.
Yeah, no, for sure. They're in line because guess what? They have probably one of the best wins in beating Bama, in Tuscaloosa. So, they got TCU this week, and then they got Iowa State and Texas Tech. So they should be favored in all those games, even with Malik Murphy at quarterback. There's no room for error. You can't lose, so you can't screw around. So
you can't be like
I think K-State over there. I think K-State was definitely your toughest test. Now, going on the road to TCU and Iowa State, those are two tougher teams, but TCU's not having the year that everybody thought they were.
No.
And I'm not really buying into Iowa State and obviously Texas Tech.
It all long as Murphy doesn't turn the ball over and puts your defense in bad situations and you're able to move it and put points up, even if it's 4 or 5 field goals and you win 20-7, hey, take the W and get out of there. That to me, that's gonna be the biggest thing is just don't turn the ball over.
And then the other one was the late game. The wild one was Washington USC. That thing was, back and forth. USC played good offensively, defense couldn't do shit. And you see where Alex Grinch gets fired this week. Washington.
He knew he was fired during that damn game.
Yeah. Where, we've been talking about Washington. They're in that 5 spot right there. saying, hey, we should be in that 4 spot over like a Florida State. But like I say, you kind of control your own destiny. 2 teams are going to be playing in a couple weeks ahead of you that are going to have to knock each other out. So Washington, controls their own destiny. They can't slip up and lose one. I thought, obviously Penix had a hell of a game. The offense, I mean, anything's a recipe for your offense to get right when you're playing that USC defense. So
I mean, Dylan Johnson had a career day.
He tore it up on the ground. I mean, that's
2 bills. I mean,
basically,
you can point even that one run long he had for 51. He still had 200 yards rushing. If you take that out,
what's crazy is 256 for him and 256 passing for Penix in that game. So that's total offense bonkers on USC's D. But I mean, I don't know. Was there any other games that we were thinking about last week? Yeah, but of course, the Boomer Sooners.
Mike Gundy with the last laugh.
he got the big Bedlam win.
We don't even have to talk about that one, but I think it's just funny. Gundy getting the last laugh.
Yeah, we don't have to. They at least Ollie Gordon didn't go for 200. They held him to a conservative 138 on the ground, but still had the 2 big touchdowns. And Oklahoma, bye. Like I literally like. What's funny is we watched Unnecessary Roughness podcast too, and we watched Brandon Walker, who has the complete hatred for Oklahoma, and he was like one of the ones that his fakest teams in the country. They put the promo video out the week after they beat Texas and had his face on there. It was just hilarious, and I was kind of in agreement too. I felt like if Oklahoma and Texas played again the next day or the next week, or if they played again, in the Big 12 game, I would pick Texas. I think Oklahoma they were right for the pick in that day.
Yeah, they got up for that game. Rivalry game, get up.
Texas had the chance, and they didn't. Sark didn't put his foot on the throat, and just settled for that field goal, and then basically let the defense, But for the most part, now like we just said, Texas controls their own destiny. Oklahoma, and I heard Little Stoops earlier. He did an interview, and they were like, you guys really don't have much to play for. He's like, what do you mean? No, I play this game because I love football. It was a good quote. It was like, fans can think what they want. I'm still going to put my heart and soul into it. But Texas or Oklahoma's ultimately not playing for anything but pride because they're out of the college football playoff. They're out of the Big 12 championship game. And like I say, good season. I would say they're definitely Brent Venables has shown improvement. So Boomer Sooner, baby. Welcome to the SEC now.
Yep.
All right, dog, let's jump into the big ones this week, dog. The big one, the Canes and the Noles, the old 90s and 2000s rivalry that I surely enjoyed. And, it's a big one because, anytime these two get together, it's one of those games where you just always – I remember when we watched it as kids and,
High Noon.
It's always – a banger of a game.
When High Noon used to be the primetime game.
That was the big noon kickoff before the big noon kickoff. And now
it was 100 degrees in the Orange Bowl and people passing out.
the many wide rights and wide lefts there was. We've been talking about obviously these two teams. They're our squads here in Florida. The Canes, obviously your boys, and the Noles have been the top dog and they're living all the glory right now, undefeated right now in the college football playoff right now. 2 touchdown favorite at home at Doak. It's going to be crazy. But, where can the Canes steal one? What's their path to victory besides turnover Van Dyke, not being turnover Van Dyke and being Tyler Van Dyne? We need Tyler Van Dyne back.
That's the only way. I mean, unless we coming into this game, not sure where we're going with the quarterback's position. Mario hasn't committed to TBD yet. We're at that 4-game stretch where Ja'Cory could play and not lose his red shirt. Emory is right on that fringe of losing his red shirt. So I could see a Emory Ja'Cory type situation, 2 quarterback situation. I could see Tyler and Ja'Cory playing, like Ja'Cory just getting special packages of just running, being a running quarterback. Our strength is our D line. I think we could get pressure on Jordan because I've been saying all year I'm not a fan of the Florida State offensive line. They've done a great job, but I think Pitt did give them problems and did get to JT a little bit last week. I think that's our strength. Where we may struggle is all the weapons Florida State has, and if JT has enough time getting those backs involved, the tight ends involved, and if the 2 big receivers play. So now you have to account for literally 5 guys.
Mhm.
And now we got to say we're our defensive line, hey guys, you got to control this line of scrimmage in this game. And do we spy Jordan? And if we do spy Jordan, does that mean Basaint spies him? Or does Flag? I don't really want Kiko Noah be the guy because he's a bigger linebacker to thump. So let's see how aggressive our defense is, and can our defense keep us in the game? And and then it flips on the offensive side. What do we do on the offense? And what does Florida State do on their defense? Does Florida State flip their defense from being man to a zone, do the 3-line and drop 8? I'm curious to see if Florida State says, no, we're not doing that. We're Florida State. We're going to be man defense. And if they play man defense and do what they always do, there's a chance that Tyler could make a couple plays. I still don't see us winning the game. I hope we win. I don't see us looking on paper, looking at the last couple weeks. You would say we should lose the game, but if somehow we don't turn the ball over, we'll have an opportunity. But that all hinges on the quarterback position. And I have zero faith in the quarterback position right now. Because even if we line up and say we're going to try and rush for 250, 200 yards, you still got to stop them on the flip side and create turnovers and, it doesn't turn the ball over. So I could see it being like a 28-14 game.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. Jordan Travis, for all intents and purposes, he's taking care of the football, hadn't turned it over, only 2 interceptions on the season. I look at it as you don't know what you're going to get, like you say, from quarterback. And that's the tough part is, 3-4 weeks ago before he got injured or whatever, you kind of knew what Tyler Van Dyke was going to give you. And he was giving you what you wanted.
You were expecting the duel to be in this game.
Go back to that North Carolina game. That's what I was expecting. They just didn't have enough in the end, but then it's just been, whether he's banged up or whatever it is, wheels fall off the wagon, making bad decisions, so it's like, I don't even know if is he, like you say, are they literally not even, can they trust him to be the guy, or are they going to go?
That's the thing. No one knows. So, a lot of the Canes reporters are scared, not say scared, but they really don't want to leak any information out. I know guys have been trying to get over to Green Tree to figure out, to see who's been getting first team reps. But it's hard for me to believe that all 3 quarterbacks aren't getting first team reps this week.
Yeah. Like I say, I felt like, a couple weeks ago, I felt like this was going to be a shootout type of game. I felt like it was going to be a good game because I do think defensively y'all can pose some problems. So if you don't turn the ball over and you kind of make it an ugly game in a sense and not a shootout, make it like what Pitt did, be tight early and then, taking shots. Well, hang around. Can you hang around?
And I take out the Pitt game because there was no Johnny Wilson and no Keon Coleman.
Right. No, for sure.
Now, if somehow those 2 guys don't play this week, which I highly doubt, but if they don't play,
I think Keon's playing, but I just don't know how bad Johnny's injury is. So a healthy Keon Coleman or an inserted Keon Coleman to that offense definitely is a shot in the arm. So like I say, me going back to it too is Florida State, I don't want to bag on their schedule, but I just felt like it's kind of been smooth sailing since the Clemson game. I mean, Virginia Tech's terrible, Syracuse is terrible.
But that's not their. But at the same time, it's not their fault. They're playing their conference games.
It's not. What I'm saying is, this is like one of those shocks. Like, oh, Miami's pretty damn good. They can athlete for us. Yeah. They can this D line is pretty good. Not taking nothing away from like a Duke, for example. Duke was a competitive game because Riley Leonard was there for the most part, and they were actually their defense really rose to the occasion in that game until it got late in the game. So can you do a Duke situation? Like I say, again, I'm not trying to bag on who they're playing. It's just like if you play Virginia Tech, Syracuse, and Wake Forest and Pitt.
I agree. I agree with you. But at the same time, their conference, that's your conference. You can't control that. It's kind of like how I bag on Michigan.
That's what I'd bring it up to.
Because I'm like, but you can control your outer conference games. Right. And that's where you give Florida State credit to where they play. They did play LSU.
Exactly. I'm not even trying to say like their schedule sucks. I'm just saying it is what it it's These teams aren't very good. So
I know what you're saying.
They've had it lined up to where it's
put it out there.
I know it's not. I'm not trying to talk like. Of course, I'm bagging Florida State. It's more so they have played who they played because of who they played, just like Michigan. So all I'm saying is I was hoping that Miami was going to be that shot in the arm. Like, oh shit, this team's pretty good. kind of like what I think is going to happen to Michigan. I think they're going to be like, damn, we're not playing Purdue or Indiana. Damn, Penn State's defense is like that. So I was hoping that the way Miami was playing was going to be that step up. We're not playing Wake Forest this week. We're playing Miami.
No, go ahead. My bad.
No, I was just saying I was hoping that was going to be where that's going to make the game good because it's going to be two competitive teams banging each other. And like I say, Miami is capable. It's just more so of can they take care of the ball? Yeah. Can they hit the big plays? Can you get the ground game going? Because again, I think in a sense too, I think Florida State's defense is a little susceptible to be had if you can do some things. I love their line.
I think we could run the ball on.
That's what I'm saying.
But at the same time, it's one of, if you're not afraid of a team passing the ball, whereas Florida State, because like the last 3-4 weeks where we've noticed, like if Florida State just tries to stop the run game or put pressure with their front four, it's been weird to me. I love their front seven, but they've been blitzing more. They've been sending the linebackers more, bringing down safeties. So that's where the Miami offensive line talk here, where you have to be able to, if you're double teaming on the front line, can you get up to those linebackers? So the offensive line for Miami, who's been doing a great job of protecting the quarterback, even though he's falling down by himself and he's thrown, I think they said 8 of his 11 picks have been in clean pockets. So can we keep the pocket clean? Yeah, it's terrible. Can we keep the pocket clean? And when we do run the ball, can we get off the D linemen and up to the linebackers and not let those guys get through the line of scrimmage to tackle the backs in the backfield, or short yardage? Because we are prone to that every now and then, where the offensive line does a great job on the first line of Penn, the first line, but moving up to that second tier, can the right guy get off and up to that next level and block those guys off? And if we could do that with a Mark Fletcher, you could get 3-4 yards of carry, and then if the line do what they're supposed to do as a big back, he could get another 4 or 5 yards. I mean, he was averaging almost 8 yards of carry this past week. So I'll be happy with 4 to 6 yards of carry.
Yeah, no, like I say, I definitely don't think it's a game like it was last year where it's just a runaway freight train. I think
it can be
if they turn the ball over, it will be that.
Yeah. So what do you think? What's the score?
I have a feeling that Van Dyke, if he plays, which I think they're going to go with Van Dyke, I just do.
He's the best. It's crazy. He's the best. He's the best chance of them winning
because he can hit.
Best chance of them getting blown out.
He can hit the big plays. So what I think is going to happen is, I think Miami's going to come and I think they're going to play well. I think he's going to limit the turnover. So I think it's going to be tight early. I think FSU does find a way to win the game, but I don't think they win by 2 touchdowns. And I think you're still in the game in the fourth quarter, where maybe Van Dyke does make that big interception late in the game that basically costs you, seals it up for Florida State.
Dawson better go in his bag of tricks.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, I think 3 weeks ago I thought this would be ripe for an upset. Now I've changed my tune on that, obviously, because of the way you guys have played.
Yeah, for sure.
Going back to Virginia and NC State and whatever. Mm-hmm. But I still feel like you're capable, and it's almost like I just feel like maybe rise to the occasion type game, backs against the wall. This is your rival. You want to this is Mario saying, hey, this is where we want to be at Florida State's level right now. We want to be in that playoff talk conversation. What do we have to do to get there? So the guys are going to have to make plays. I do think FSU wins the game, and if they do have a late turnover, they do maybe cover the number. But I still feel like Miami is going to be in the game in the fourth quarter, and I think it could be tight. I'm, 35-24, 35-28, something like that is where I've got it.
Like you say, it's hard to put a place on where you think the game's going to go, just because of the quarterback position is so. Because even if Emory starts, if they go with the same game plan against Clemson, they're not going to win the game with that game plan.
No, for sure.
It'll keep it close for a little while, and then Florida State will get a Duke type drive on 98 yards and score within 3-4 minutes.
Your defense definitely needs to bring their lunch pail, and they're gonna have a day. They're gonna have to work. No, for sure. And I think
to have 3-4 drives of running the ball to where we give them at least a 10-minute break to get their win back.
Yeah.
No, it's true though. You're
right.
Have that.
You're right.
I think that's part of USC's problem. USC's problem is you look at their average scoring drives. they're like 2-3 minutes, and I'm like, how the hell are you going to give these guys time?
That's the sad part is USC's offense is so good it doesn't even help out that terrible defense. So
Nope.
it's like it's like
Yep.
poison. It's poisonous to score that.
It really is. If you go back and look at some of the USC scoring drives, you're like, dude, they're scoring at light speed. I think their average time of possession is like 25 minutes, 25, 30 minutes for a game. That's in the bottom tier of the NCAA. You're not helping your defense, a bad defense out.
Right, exactly. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, dog. The nightcap game, my boys going on the road to Baton Rouge to play this.
It is now nighttime. In Baton Rouge.
It's a night game in Baton Rouge, baby.
Hey, there's nothing like hearing that in person, though.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty dope place, pretty cool atmosphere. You know, I was telling somebody about that trip in 2007 we took today.
That was a great road trip.
Yeah, that was a fun game. You know, we didn't win, obviously, but the game was a hell of a game. That was one of the better games in a loss. The atmosphere, but that was a great, it was a great loss. It was like a fun game. We didn't stop them on fourth down 100 times. I think Jacob Hester still converted another one just now.
Yeah.
But
anyone that's still listening, if you're able to go to Baton Rouge for one game, I don't care what game it is, go to a night game in Baton Rouge and start partying at what time did we start that day? Like 1.
We got up early.
1-2 o'clock. We were on campus.
No. We were up. I mean, we got up early because we were watching a little game day.
Yeah.
That was Central Time Zone. We got over there about noonish.
Yeah, that was a long day.
That was an 8 o'clock kick on CBS that night.
It was a long day.
Trust. Yeah. But after a long day on Friday on Bourbon Street.
We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah. We'll keep Bourbon Street out. But no, Florida LSU, you know, Jaden Daniels, concussion protocol. He did some work yesterday. He's supposed to be full go practice today. I'm expecting him to play. You know, can we stop them on offense? No. So
can we be a short breakdown?
Yeah. Can we literally this is it. Can we score? Can the offense where we've seen this offense go the last several weeks going back to Carolina, can they continue to progress and play? And your only shot is get into a shootout and then hopefully
ETN better have 20 plus touches.
Put it this way. ETN and Pearsall and Eugene Wilson, they can get off on anybody. I don't care who it is. Like those guys can play. So, like, I mean, they did it against Georgia. You know, Eugene Wilson looked like the fastest guy on the field on that first touchdown. You know, ETN the other last
plays.
Exactly. ETN last week, you know, catches it and is out of there. Yeah. So, like, they got guys who can do explosive things. It's just, can you get them the ball? Can you get them, you know,
and
give them the right amount? Give them the right amount of touches. Winning at South Carolina on the road, that does nothing for me. I don't care. Like that was one game. You know, consistently show me that you can play the same game whether you're at home or on the road. You know, so it all boils down to, can you get a stop or two? You know, to be in the game to even have these guys make plays for you. Yeah. So I don't see us winning. Definitely not winning the game. I can see us being in the game, just like kind of like the Miami game. I feel like we can be in the game and maybe have a shot, but I just don't think we're going to win. I picked this not to cover, so I took the points. You know, so we'll see if we can keep it close and be in the end. You know, have a shot to win. You know, but Jaden Daniels is too special. I think if he does play, even if Nussmeier plays, I still wouldn't pick us to win.
Yeah.
So
who is covering Malik Neighbors?
Yeah.
Your
best guy, you hope it's your 5-star guy. So I mean, hell, look, get cooked and you're never going to play again.
It's gonna be bombs over Baghdad over there. Yeah, I think in this game, I just don't see you guys stopping that offense. The D line's gonna have to come and play if they try to stop the offense. If like I say, if Daniels is playing, it's gonna be one of those things where he puts the safeties in so much of a bind of
you commit on trying to stop his run game by, like you say, Bama spying him and just say, hey, we'll go man, you know, and just say we're gonna get to you or corral you or keep you from going running. You know, so that's you don't know. That's what you got to figure out.
And then their receiving core, I mean, you know, we highlight Malik Neighbors, but their receiving core is good enough to where it's not just him. It's not. So if you try to double him, then you leave Lacey open and then what is it, Taylor? Jason
Yeah.
Taylor's kid at tight end, and then Mason
Cheat,
Taylor, and then
the cheater back there, the cheater
then
back there, Harbaugh.
Diggs. Then you got Diggs at running back. So they're going to try to probably get their running game going. They're probably going to tell Daniels, try not to run as much as you can.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like, how cautious are you as a runner now in Jaden Daniels to take that hit? I mean,
that's the thing. Yeah,
you're going to get hit. So it's just a matter of, you think about it. How did we lose the game last year in Gainesville? My boy, your Big Gerv down in Chicago now, basically pancaked him, flatlined him on an alleged late hit, got the personal foul penalty. Yeah. And we had an interception from Jason Marshall on that play that got overturned, and we ended up losing that game, which was basically a shootout last year. So
he's just so special at quarterback, man. He's great. Ed Orgeron needs to take him out to dinner like every night and get some weight on that kid, because he is so rail thin and he just gets hit and hit and hit. And you're just like, dude, you knew one was going to catch up with him. I mean, it should have been a rough in the passing penalty on Dallas Turner. I didn't think it was I guess you could say it was a dirty hit, but it wasn't, ejectable.
I mean, it's bang, bang. It's bang, bang. Yeah. 10 years ago, everybody was like, man, that's a great hit.
Yeah. So
we changed the game on that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was dirty. He just he knocked the tar out of him.
Yeah, it's excessive. But if you're Armstrong, that's what you tell your guys. Every time you get an opportunity to hit them, you better hit them.
Dude, I mean, for as much as what we talk about in this game, we've played it. I've coached it. You've been around it a lot. Like the mental aspect of the toughness of this game. We talk about how the game's getting soft and all that, and player protection. I'm all for that. But still, this game is already a fist fight, a violent fight, a big hitting game. That's just is what it is. So, I think about when we were playing, in Trinity High School. Like we're telling Jeff and those guys, man, knock the ever living tar out of the quarterback. This is a violent game. Knock him out of the game. Hit him. Like, make them not want to come across the middle.
Whistles before people jump.
Exactly.
Between the whistles,
Exactly. Like, it still says at Trinity, the most violent team wins.
It's true though.
This game is already a violent game. Well, it's a tough game, and so you already have that mental in your head to be like, man, I already know what kind of fight we're getting into today.
Look at every team that's won the national championship in college football. They're violent teams.
Yeah.
You look at Alabama, you look at Georgia. You think about that defensive line at Clemson when they had Dexter Lawrence and all, including Farrell.
Think about that Gator D line against Ohio State back in 07. Like, they were getting after Troy Smith. Like, it was like
it's a violent game, and you want your defense to be knocking guys out.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, when you see that hit last week, it's like, okay, yeah, sure. Now it's a penalty flag. You shouldn't get thrown out of the game. All that.
No, it's a rough in the pass.
It's almost yards. Like. But when you're a fan of that team, you're like, hell yeah, he just knocked the piss out of Jaden Daniels. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when you do that, it's like, okay, that's what football, was and what it still is. But, I get the player safety element of it for sure. You don't want to see anybody get hurt, but, things happen when guys hit two helmets together, you're going to get some concussions, so
right.
The only thing we could do is, like you like to say, we play 7-on-7 and put flags on everybody. No, we're not going to do that. So call the penalties. Call the penalties, and I'm still going to tell Dallas Turner and Prince of Human Yelling, get after Jaden Daniels, go sack the quarterback, pop him, give him a big hit. Like,
that was a guy I forgot to highlight in the last week's game. Prince had a pretty good game.
He's been playing good, really all year. Like PFF number wise on that stuff. There was a couple times where he was right there to get KJ and didn't get him, but like I say,
But this is, like you say, this is a different speed this week.
Yeah, no, he needs to get after him again this week, or just stay
hits on him, but
stay contained, and then hopefully.
But with the trend of giving up 30+ points in the last 3 games, and the offenses you've played the last 3 weeks aren't this offense you're playing this week. Somehow, if you could turn them over and get like you say, just hit them. But like you say, Nussmeier comes in. He's just not the running threat Jaden is, but he could zing it.
No, Nussmeier can throw it. He's very capable of, like you say, throwing to neighbors and those guys.
Yeah, so
I don't think we win. We lose, and on to Missouri.
I think it's going to be like a 38-17, 38-20 type game. Like I said, LSU is going to win. So it's just going to be tough these last 3 weeks for the Gators to get that 6th win. And I think as people will say, oh, it's 6-6 and this and that, and that's not a great year. But what people never really highlight is how important to get that bowl game in, to get those bowl practices.
Yeah, it's
Like,
hell.
it's
That
super important.
it is good, but nowadays, hell, the way they do it, this is what they did last year. You know, it was such a big deal last year. Think about it. They literally finished the season, and then I think they were on break, and I think they did like only 1 week of practice still.
But
so it's
still
like
important though,
because the game was like literally December like the 24th.
It was early, but it's still important to get those younger guys practicing, and even because you need it, because even if a bunch of guys declare and say, "Oh, I'm not playing, I'm sitting out," and this and that, you get those younger guys. Just that one opportunity, that experience of getting in the football game is important.
Well,
You know,
no, like I say, it's one of those things where it's like now it's like I don't even care. It's
But as a fan, I expect you to say that. But as a coach, you're thinking about those 15 practices, however you get them
I don't
in.
even think it's 15 anymore. I'm telling you. I know
whatever it is, it's on outside looking in. It doesn't look like much, but it is a lot for a coach to say we could get these guys in there and we could control what's going on in this environment for a few more games or days, I should say. And then if you lose several guys, you could be like, well, I could throw this freshman in there and get him. That one game could be a lot. That could springboard him into the spring to where he has a great spring and gets a little confidence, and then, get through the winter workouts and the spring practice, and then you're getting ready for the next season. It's very important. 6-6 doesn't sound like much. I get it, but it gets you ready for the next season.
No, I agree and I disagree, but I mean, I agree with you. I know exactly what you're saying, but
as a fan, you don't care. I get it. As fans don't give a shit.
What did it do for us last year getting beat the hell by Oregon State? It springboarded them.
I think that was a different situation because you guys had so many guys just.
Well, we had everybody declare, and then we had guys.
A lot of transfers.
AR didn't play, so the team that played so well in the shootout against Florida State didn't play in that game against Oregon State.
Yeah, but it did. But look at, like you said, look at Oregon State. It springboarded Oregon State into a top 15 year so far.
Yeah, I think they won like 7 or 8 games. So that was like
that's what I'm saying. But last year they won 7 and 8. But this year's Oregon State team looks better than last year's Oregon State team. I mean, of course, it's an upgrade at quarterback, but they look night and day. But that's what I'm saying. You give guys the opportunity to play more and get a bunch of guys that don't play during the season, or they get minimal playing time, and then just say, hey, kid, just go out there. This is your game. You play the whole game. We're going to yell at you and when you make mistakes, but that's what we want. And like I said, that's important. That is important. Like I say, for the average fan, I get it. They don't care.
They don't care about bowl games. There's too many bowl games now. It's
no
stupid.
Such thing.
No such thing as too many bowl games.
I'll watch them. I don't care. Guess what? I always tell people, we're gonna do a bowl. Don't watch. You don't. Podcast. No one's making you watch.
We'll do a bowl podcast after every 3 games.
No. That's a little too far. I didn't say all of that.
Every 3 bowl games, we'll do a pod. We'll do more pods than fucking the year. Like we did.
Guess what? Guess we don't have to worry about Sponge. We don't have to worry about talking about the Gators during bowl season.
We don't. Now we turn our attention to Faro's favorite segment of the week, Big Ten football.
Yes. Not these two teams. Is what's the total for the Iowa score? That's my favorite part of Big Ten. But since you're taking your drink, this game, Michigan finally gets to play a team with a pulse. Hey, Michigan, welcome to the 2023 season. You finally get to play someone. This game, I think Michigan is going to win. I don't believe in Drew Aller. Better yet, James Franklin at Penn State. He is 1-5 against top 10 teams at home. He's 5-8 against ranked teams at home. He's 1-7 versus top 5 teams, and he's 3-6 against Michigan. What makes me think that the trend's going to change?
Yeah, so he's overrated, right? We had this discussion earlier. He's rightly rated.
He's a good coach.
Yeah, he's never been predicted to win any of those games. He's just like today, or just like he's predicted not to win. So why would they win?
Coach.
They win 10 games, but they can't win the games that they're not favored in winning. They win the games that he's favored in. All right, so you got Michigan.
Yep. Covering.
Michigan to cover, baby.
Well, it's only 4.5. So
I know it's a touchdown. It's a touchdown. Sorry, buddy. Happy Valley, baby. Penn State. Penn State gets the dub this weekend, dog.
Oh, because Michigan doesn't have their signs?
No, it's not even that. Like they could get blown out because they're not cheating this game. Who knows? But no. I think Penn State, like I said it before, I think Penn State and Ohio State's defenses are for real. And I think Penn State being at home, obviously, it's not the night whiteout type game, the big noon, but I feel like Penn State defensively has been really good. And I think for all intents and purposes, like you say, Michigan, welcome to the season. We know what they do with JJ McCarthy. They've got two great running backs. They've been just completely just blistering teams at a high rate of speed where they're not even playing in the fourth quarter, all that stuff. So where does Penn State's path and what do they have to do to win? I think the defensive line is really good. And I
Still
think
got to score points.
I don't disagree, but defensively is where I think this looks like a game against like Ohio State. You'd have the big takeaway that got called back because of the penalty. That was a huge play in that Ohio State game to where like, man, if Penn State doesn't get that holding call, they get the scoop and score the other way. You generate something offensively from your defense. I think that's what's going to take a recipe to beat Michigan. Like I say, it's hard to pin Michigan how good they are, just because of the caliber of competition they played.
We'll find out this week.
Exactly. And that's the good part about it. So it could go one of two ways. Michigan come out with their hair on fire. Everybody's been calling us cheaters and blah, 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 stealing signs. We'll show you JJ McCarthy rip it off for, 250 and Blake Corum and, Donovan Edwards. The other thing that's crazy is Donovan Edwards' numbers are surprisingly low. He's not really ripping it up on the ground.
They haven't really needed him. It's not like Blake Corum's numbers are crazy. Really but when you're beating teams up, you don't need those guys.
Yeah. So my big question is, how good is Michigan's defense? They've been obviously shutting everybody down. They haven't given up more than like 14 in a game all season. So it's like the flip side of Penn State being like, man, Penn State struggled against the last team they played that had a good defense, obviously in Ohio State. What did we say in that game? Who had Marvin Harrison Jr., who had the cheat code? So like, where does each offense find their way and what do they do? Yeah. I think, in my opinion, I think the big deal is I'm not respecting Michigan's playmakers on the outside. I know what Blake Corum can get you, but can he really run it on this Penn State D? And that's where I think Penn State's defense is going to really get after it. Roman Wilson, for all intents and purposes, is a nice receiver. I like him. I do like Roman Wilson for Michigan, but he's not Marvin Harrison Jr. So where does then Penn State and Drew Aller's offense get something going on the flip side against Michigan? And that's where you got to lean on your running game, and hopefully you can open up holes for Kentron Allen and Singleton and those guys. But like, they didn't try to run the ball like they did, against Ohio State. Now either Ohio State shut them down and basically Franklin and those guys said, you know what, we're not going to try to run it. We can't run it. I don't know what the problem is, but they've got to commit to not put this game on Drew Aller, in my opinion. And that's where if it is on him, he's going to have to make plays, but I don't know where you're going to get it from because they've been struggling against good defenses. Now, they did find their way last week, and they ripped a new one in Maryland, who we thought Maryland was kind of one of those fringe top 25, top 30 teams. And, I mean, they blistered Maryland 51, 14 or whatever it was. They got after the quarterback. They made little Tua look. He struggled. And, so, like, again, that was one game. But I like Penn State. I still like Penn State. And I know that you haven't been a lover of them, which is fine. I just like the defense so much. I think their defense is really good. And we're going to find out how good they are, obviously, going up against JJ McCarthy in this running game from Michigan. So it's like, it's one of those things is like, yeah, this could happen. This could happen. Like, who knows what's going to happen? That's why I can't wait to let it unfold and see it and be like, man, okay, Michigan is damn for real. They are the best team in the country. Or Michigan's not that good, and Penn State is actually pretty decent. So the good part about it is we get to see it all unfold at noon on Saturday. And like I say, I'm actually looking forward to this game, I think, more than the Ohio State-Penn State game, because I think just because of the illusion of how good is Michigan and what do they really look like.
Yeah. That's all I got. Not looking. What time is this game again?
At 12 o'clock, buddy. It's the high noon game, the big noon kickoff.
Okay.
So you're not looking forward to this game at all? Zero. It gives you nothing.
Really don't care. I'm
This
gonna,
game has.
I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch.
I understand, but like the potential
But
of where
there's zero
this game
excitement to watch this game.
really. See,
I have zero excitement to watch Big Ten football.
The Ohio State Penn State game, I was like, yeah, I want to watch this game, but it's I don't know. I think I have more
What did I
intrigue for this
hold
one.
on? Leading up to that game, what did I say? It was
Yeah, I
gonna
know
be
you
like
didn't want.
watching paint dry.
Yeah, it was a defensive like
And what
slugfest.
was it?
Offenses looked terrible. You know,
It was worse than paint drying.
yeah, like I say,
And this
and
part did.
and what we took away from that was we thought Ohio State and Penn State's D's were good, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. was the X factor in
I do
the
have
game.
a question. I do have a question about, should he be in the Heisman race? Has he done anything really for you to be like, he deserves my Heisman vote? I'm just curious, because every day it seems like someone's like, Marvin Harrison should be up for the Heisman, and I'm just like, but what has he? One, what moment has he had so far?
Yeah,
and what has he really? He has good numbers. Like Biletnikoff, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Heisman, no.
Yeah, no, he shouldn't be in the Heisman race. I mean, it's a quarterback award now. So
no, even if it, I was just curious.
No, I know. I wouldn't have him. I wouldn't even have him going to New York. He doesn't have the numbers to do that. Like if he had like 20 touchdowns or something, but
yeah,
like I say, he's definitely probably every time you play a game, he's probably the best player on the field, to where he can
100%,
where he can become that cheat code, so I guess here's the thing. What does he do against Michigan in a couple weeks? Then what does he do in the Big Ten game? Then we'll see where he's at number wise and all that. But I don't think he's Heisman worthy. But maybe if he puts his numbers up, maybe he can go to New York. But I still think it's one of the quarterbacks right now. But I think that race is wide open too when it comes to the Heisman, because I think there's moments to be had from all these guys like a Penix, a Bo Nix, a Carson Beck, a JJ McCarthy. All these guys, Jordan Travis. So I think,
it's still. Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to come from any one of those guys, that we just talked about. But since you don't have much to say, I like to say I like Penn State just because I like the defense. I think Drew Aller I think he's progressed as the seasons went on. Even the last 2 weeks he didn't look great against Indiana. Maryland, he had a good game. So you're hoping there's some carryover to the Maryland game to where you're like, okay, Drew Aller had a big game. What do you throw for 240, 4 touchdowns? Like I say, more so, you got to get Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton going on the ground game. But what's crazy is I feel like Penn State's become more of a pass-first team, and when you got to rely on those backs. But it is what it is. Shout out to my boy Cam Miller, who's been balling in the slot corner he's been at nickel corner for Penn State. So I'll be interested to see how good, because Penn State does have another first round alleged corner. So can they match up against those Michigan receivers to shut down that run game that Michigan's got?
Can we move on to Georgia Ole Miss?
And let's see, they got Michigan. Can we see?
Can we move on to Oregon versus whoever?
I was trying to bleed this. Continues to bleed this out.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said that. Can we move on to other games?
I need somebody else to have.
I could care less about this game.
I'm excited about this one. Are you coming over to watch this one at 12?
We'll see. That's early.
Man, you're a loser. You're a loser, baby.
Here we go. A way better game.
A way better game. You know what? I don't think so. Go ahead.
I agree. I agree. I think Georgia's going to win. The only reason why I said it's going to be a better game, I'm just curious to see if Jackson Dart puts Georgia's defense in a bind. They're not playing the Alabama defense, where Alabama did a great job against Jackson Dart in that offense. We'll see. Like I say, this is one of those building block games to see how good Georgia is defensively. Like, I think the offense is going to move the ball against Ole Miss. I think Georgia's going to win, but I just want to see that Georgia defense and how they go against a mobile quarterback. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, no, this game, I had thought about it earlier in the week, and I was like, all right, Ole Miss, Jackson Dart's played really good.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of explosive plays. I love Judkins at running back. I like Ole Miss's offense. Yes, Dart brings a element of threat to keep plays alive, be mobile in the run game, all that stuff. But what it boiled down to me when I really thought about it, I'm like, Georgia's defense is still really good,
Yeah. Can they
and
withstand the punch? Can they
right.
with that's the thing playing against Georgia. Can you withstand that
But where
moment?
I agree with all that, but here's where I think the game gets lost. I don't think Ole Miss is going to stop Georgia. Like I think Carson Beck is
Oh,
playing at
yeah.
another level.
That
I think
offense
Ole Miss.
is
I think Ole Miss's defense is fraud. I
yeah.
think they've hell.
Well,
Look what they did.
that's
Look what they did
that's
last
what
week.
I'm saying. Yeah,
They let
that's what I'm saying.
Texas A&M and Max Johnson like
Up and down
went
the
up and down
field.
the field, and it was a
Yeah.
38-35 type game.
Mm-hmm.
They scored 10 points against Bama. They've had the shootout win against LSU. I think this is typical Lane Kiffin like last year. They're undefeated, one loss, right there at the top 10. And then you're finally going to play somebody like last year LSU, this year Georgia. I think Georgia bombs them. I think Georgia handles them. I think we're going to be like, man, this looked like a good game. And next thing you know, it's 35-10
No, I can see
Georgia.
that. I
But
definitely can see that.
but I would love to see Georgia get tried and tested. So
Yeah.
if Ole Miss can't stress them offensively, like you
Yeah.
just said, if Dart can have a hell of a game and play great, and
Yeah.
they can run the ball, maybe they can pose a little bit of a threat to where it is a game. So
The one thing that's benefited Georgia a lot this year is most of their big games outside of Tennessee have been at home.
I was just about to say they're playing a night game in Athens, which they don't get a lot. So that crowd is going to be jacked. It's going to be electric in that building.
Athens is going to be rocking.
That's a whole nother. That's a whole touchdown. So I just feel like this game, watching paint dry early at noon. This one we're going to be like, well, damn, this is a blowout. Let's watch Oregon and Utah or Oregon US. No, who is it? Oregon's playing
Florida. You're not going to be watching the Florida LSU game.
It might be a blowout too. It'll be on one of the TVs. So I mean, this game. Put it this way: this game will actually be over because it starts at 7, and then we can watch Florida LSU.
Oh,
it's at 7:45. It's at 7:45, 7:30.
Yeah,
so
I think Florida. I mean Florida. I think Georgia's going to win probably like a 38-17 type game, 38-14. But like I say, for me watching this game, I just want to see, can Jackson Dart and offense put stress on the Georgia defense? Because like I said, it's just them with a running quarterback. He is a better running dual threat quarterback than Cook and Peyton Thorne from Auburn, where Peyton Thorne is basically a runner. So I just want to see how that
design run.
Yeah, I just want to see how that goes. I mean, because they need to find out if they play Milroe in the SEC championship game, if both teams get there.
Yeah.
And I'm not comparing Jackson Dart and Milroe are light years apart, but you still get an opportunity to see how your defense fares against a mobile quarterback leading into the last couple weeks of the year. Because I mean, Joe Milton's not a big running quarterback like per se, but he can get out on the run. So these next couple of weeks for Georgia, we'll definitely see. I mean, even with Haynes King, he could run the ball a little bit for Georgia Tech. So the next 3 weeks, they will see kind of a dual threat quarterback.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, I think Georgia wins, take care of business. But
yeah.
Like I say, I want to watch it just because you want to see if Ole Miss is the number 9 team in the country. Are they that good? Just like we're going to see Michigan, you're in the top 4, just like a Georgia. Penn State, do you deserve to be number 10? Or you're in the top 10? Are you? So we'll see in both of those games. They're both going to be obviously different parallels of styles.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the other games, I guess, top 25 matchups. The big CBS game is Tennessee, Missouri. Who you like in that one?
Missouri.
Yeah, I think I like Missouri too.
I like Missouri. I mean, only thing that could get them is bite them in the ass is, I guess, hangover from last week, knowing that you were right there with them, my number 1 team in the country. Yeah, well, you're right there. You had opportunity, and you kind of.
Well, here's the crazy scenario. You talk about this. How about this? If this happened, you want to throw scenarios out there. Tennessee, everything is still kind of right there for you. I like Missouri in the game, by the way, too. Mm-hmm. But it's at home. But Tennessee, you're capable. Milton can play good, just like you did first half against Bama. Get that run game going, all that good stuff.
They win
So
this week and win next week.
that's what I'm saying. What if Tennessee
Yeah.
pulls this one out? And then what happens if Ole Miss comes to play and knocks off Georgia? So you have that 3:30 window where Tennessee wins. You're like, all right, Tennessee won that game. Then Ole Miss pulls the upset. Then you have literally a playoff game next week in Knoxville. Winner take all, Georgia, Tennessee. That'd be wild. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that would be pretty crazy.
That would be wild. That would be good to see. I don't see it happening, like you said. But like we've been saying all year, week to week, you just don't know.
No, that's what I'm saying.
You really don't know.
We don't see that happening, but it could happen. That's the crazy part about it.
Yeah, it could happen. I still I think Missouri's the better team. Like you say,
I think offensively they're better.
The kid at running back Schrader is pretty good. Do they have a hangover from last week, from that loss last week? I think it's their biggest thing. And if they could get off the ground and say, hey, we're 7-2, we still have a great year. Let's finish off strong. And they're still sitting in a position to possibly get a New Year's Six bowl. So, I mean, it's going to be tough because of the loser probably at Alabama. Georgia, hypothetically speaking, SEC championship game could possibly get the New Year's Six bowl, but you're still sitting in a good position for a New Year's Six bowl or a high-ranking bowl. So, and you want to finish off on a strong suit. I think Missouri's going to beat Tennessee. You finally got it in my head not to believe in Joe Milton.
There you go. It took 10 weeks. Took 10 weeks, man.
Yeah.
No, the other two big matchups are the Pac-12 games. You got Utah going on the road to Washington, and you got USC and Oregon playing. Does Washington, do they have a slip up? Do they, not finish the mission? Do they blow one at home here? You had a big win last week in the shootout with USC.
Yeah.
Utah's capable. They've looked good.
It goes like this for me. Can the Utah defense slow down the Washington offense? And if they can't, can the Utah offense keep up with the Washington offense? I just don't. I don't see it. Can it happen? I still think Washington still has enough in the chamber to pull this one off.
I think being at home's big deal too.
Yeah. That's huge. Not playing in Utah.
You see what Utah did to Arizona State last weekend?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They got their offense right in that game. 55-3. I was like, good night. So like I said, I think Washington wins at home because I think they realize, where the season's at. But again, this would be not at all surprising if somehow we look and at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, Washington just got their first loss.
I mean, it's no different than we get to see a test of Oregon's defense.
Yeah. Right.
Can Oregon's defense against USC's offense? Because like I say, regardless of how USC fans feel and people are bagging their defense and this and that,
that's the late game. You staying over for that one? Or are you leaving?
I got a flight to catch on Sunday.
Oh.
But can that defense stop that USC offense? We know Oregon's going to move the ball up and down the field, but will it be a track meet like this past weekend? And does Caleb and the guys still have enough left, like after running up and down the field against that Washington defense?
I think it's me crying with his mom, wanting to watch shows with his dog again.
Yeah, no, I think, like I said, I think Oregon's going to win.
Yeah,
but
they cover the number.
What is
it's?
The number?
It's like 13.
I think they could cover the number.
Yeah,
I think they could cover the number. Like I say, you've been touting the Oregon defense all year, so this is another true test. I mean, other than Arizona and Washington, and sneaky team Arizona, they're going to go into Colorado and
they're gonna beat Colorado.
yeah.
I think that's an easy game.
Speaking of teams we haven't talked about in like 6-7 weeks.
I don't know where the time's gone. I don't know where they went. But
I think Oregon's going to win. But like I said, I'm like you say, at this time of the year when you think teams aren't going to win, you look at the matchups and you look at to see where the holes can be. Like I said, I still think USC's offense is still top 5 offense. So we'll see what the Oregon defense could do. I think Oregon's going to win. I could see it being like a 45-38 type game.
Yeah, I like Oregon to win and cover. I like Washington to win but not cover. I think Utah can play with them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. All right, buddy. Well, let's it's kind of a boring segment now because the top 10 really hasn't changed.
Mine hasn't changed.
Exactly. So, I mean,
I'll
we
just
can
go through it real fast.
we'll run through them and we can, talk about maybe some scenarios like we just had a minute ago and see what you think.
Same as last week. UGA, FSU, Ohio State, Michigan, UW, Oregon, Texas, Bama, Penn State, Ole Miss. 2 of those teams will be out more likely after this weekend.
Yeah.
Somehow, if Michigan does lose to Penn State, they probably could drop to the bottom of the top 10, but we'll see. Ole Miss, Georgia, obviously. Ole Miss is probably going to drop out. Yeah, that's all I got. Texas is still finding ways to win. Like we said, find ways to win just until your starter comes back. The Pac-12 teams, just keep doing what you're doing. You're sitting in prime position and get ready for that Pac-12 championship if you're UW in Oregon. I mean, it doesn't at this point, it almost doesn't matter where any of these teams are ranked.
No, because they're all
You just got to win.
Yeah, they all got to control their destiny. Yeah. Whatever. I've got my 10 is the same as the playoff rankings. I got Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, Oregon, Texas, Bama, Ole Miss, and Penn State. So I feel like
same teams, just a different order.
Yeah, you got Florida State at 2, whatever. That's fine. I feel like we just said. So the scenario would be like, does Washington run the table, and then Oregon, Washington rematch? If Washington
that's what I'm thinking, unless a rivalry game slips up. I mean,
right.
Oregon still has to play a good Oregon State team. UW still has to play Washington State. I know they've kind of gone in a tailspin. It's still the Apple Cup, last year of the Apple Cup, kind of like Bedlam. It's the last year of Bedlam, so I think it's the last year of the Apple Cup. No, I think they did agree to play every year, but still, last time in the same conference. So of course you want to be like, hey, I won that last one in conference or whatever. So there's still some tough games. It's still tough games out there. We still got 3 weeks and still a lot to find out in 3 weeks.
I got a random one for you. Now, like all intents and purposes, just we'll throw out all the different scenarios, but let's just say that it comes down to Bama upsetting Georgia and knocking them out, but they have the same win-loss record, 11-1, 12-1 as Texas. Would you take Bama over Texas to get in?
I can't, because they lost head-to-head. I don't care how they look at the end of the year. I believe in head-to-head as being one of the key components of ranking. It's like my argument going back to the Miami-Florida State 2000 season. Like, how do you rank a team over another team when head-to-head they lost? Regardless if I feel like Bama is better than Texas,
right?
How they're playing, they played head-to-head. That's all. What else do I need to see?
Mm-hmm.
If they have the same ranking, I mean, same win-loss totals and all of that.
Yeah, no, it's basically if I got Texas winning out at being 12-1, Bama being 12-1 is also, but obviously Bama would knock off Georgia, who would be wherever they are by the time that game comes.
Yeah, I mean, but still, there's still opportunity that Texas and Bama get in the playoff.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. That might be the scenario where they both get in with one loss. So
but ranking.
I was just throwing it out there. If there was the fourth spot, and it was basically Texas and Bama were 5 and 6 to play for that fourth spot.
As much as it hurts to say, I would have to put Texas in just because, like I say, they played head to head. You can't take that out of the factor of they played head to head, regardless of how you feel that. Oh, these two teams. You're looking at, I believe in looking at teams ascend during the season and teams descending towards the end of the year. But at the end of the day, if you played head to head, you got to take that out of there.
Yeah. See, the other scenario I'd love to throw out there, but it's not going to happen just because you're going to have one of these two teams lose would be Michigan, Ohio State. Obviously, one of them are going to lose because they play each other. But it would be what it would boil down to is, let's just say, for all intents and purposes, both of those teams didn't play each other and they could run the table, whatever. So it'd be that for the right now, the way the playoffs is set up for the 4 and the 5 spot, Florida State and Washington. If Florida State does, in all intents and purposes, did run the table and go undefeated and win the ACC, and Oregon did the same thing as well, having 2 wins against Oregon, or Washington having 2 wins against Oregon, would you be at all inclined to move Washington into the top 4 over a Florida State?
No.
No, 2 wins against Oregon. Doesn't impress you enough?
It's impressive.
Because I guess at that point, Louisville would be the best win that Florida State would have at 11. And where would they be? I don't know. I mean, again, it's not going to happen because they both would be in the playoff. They would both be.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I was throwing it out there if there was another undefeated, like if I don't know. I'm trying to think.
But how would that be
Texas
possible? Just say Michigan, Ohio State played. You're saying that Michigan and Ohio State didn't play each other?
I'll throw another scenario in there. Let's just say Michigan is out of there, and let's just say Texas is undefeated and they're in. So it would be like Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan winner, Texas. And now you're fighting for that 4th spot. Would be like I say, the scenario is out the door. This is not a real scenario. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
If there was another undefeated team, the reason why this won't happen is because Ohio State and Michigan play each other. So one of them is going to be out of there. So then Florida State would be 3, and then Washington would be 4. There's no discussion here. I'm saying if let's just say Texas was undefeated right now, and Texas ran the table, so you'd have Georgia, Ohio State, Texas. Then you had basically that 4 slot between 2 undefeateds of Florida State and a Washington. Is there any room for a Washington to jump to that 4 spot by beating Oregon twice, which would be, in my opinion, 2 better wins, and winning the Pac-12, who you've touted and we've all touted as the best conference in America this year?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so you can make the argument.
I'm just asking.
No. I was saying you can make the argument. I mean, like you say,
don't want to say it. You hate Florida State. Just say it.
No, you hate Florida State. That's why you're bringing up these crazy scenarios. Because, like I say, you're still looking at Louisville. Louisville is still a top. They probably
11.
won't lose. There will be a top 10 team when they play Florida State. LSU's still going to be in the top 20. I mean, I get it. It's not beating
the Gators beat them this weekend.
It's still, I get it's not beating Oregon. That's going to be in the top 10 2 times, but we're going to factor in beating the same team twice.
Yeah,
that's.
I mean, that's what they would if you know Ohio State and Michigan had to play again, but they're not going to because they're in the same side.
I think what doesn't help UW would be beating Utah's probably going to be out of the top 25 this week. Washington State blowing it, just blowing up. Oregon State will probably be out of it because that means they can lose to Oregon.
Carnage happened.
Yeah, the USC victory is hollow because USC's outside of it. So all the teams we've been touting in the top 25 for the Pac-12, most of those teams would be out. So, I mean, and if you're using the scenario, the logic you've used with your top 10 of this is where the teams are right now.
The resume.
Your resume. So all those teams are gone.
Exactly. And I guess the point of that too is, wild that you think about it. That basically means Florida State would have only be, depending on if they'd be LSU and Louisville would be there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my only intents purposes is basically beating Oregon, who's been in the top 10 all year.
Just say you wouldn't put them in. That's all you got to say.
I wouldn't.
I know you wouldn't.
But could I convince you that the argument would be to have Washington in, and would you be upset with that? Basically,
I would not be upset
crying on Selection Sunday.
No. I wouldn't be upset with it, but I still think Florida State's one of the top 4 teams in the country. I mean, I've been saying that all year.
I agree.
I've been consistent with it.
That's why it's going to be so good. The fall from grace when they finally lose one of these last 4 games and they not get in the playoff is going to be hilarious.
I mean, if they lose this week, I'll be ecstatic.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying.
I'll be on cloud 9, and I wouldn't care less after.
It's going to be so devastating. It's going to be so devastating for Florida State fans.
Hey, until they lose, they're one of the top 4 teams in the country.
Like I say, they're on a razor thin margin. They can't lose.
Yeah.
Like they don't have that mulligan to where if Georgia or Alabama with a 1 loss. Because here's the thing: Florida State with 1 loss isn't getting in over anybody with the 1 losses.
No.
Now, how would you compare that one? So would you take a 1 loss? Like if I don't know who they lose to, let's say they lose to Miami or Florida or Louisville. Any one of those 3.
So just all right. Hypothetically speaking, if Georgia loses to Ole Miss this week,
okay, go ahead.
They still have an opportunity to get back in the top 4 because they still got a Bama to play.
Right.
Who else do they have?
That's pretty much it.
Georgia Tech doesn't count.
Yeah.
But you still have the SEC championship to vault you back in because then you're saying if Bama doesn't, well, you still got Tennessee. So they still got a top 15 team in Tennessee.
Right.
So if they lost this week and they beat a Tennessee, Georgia Tech, and Alabama will probably be in the top 4 at that point.
Right.
You still have an opportunity to leapfrog a couple teams.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is if Florida State did lose to, like I say, either this week to
They're out.
Miami
They're out.
or
They're
that's
out.
what I'm saying. They can't even fight. They're not even one. They're not a one-loss team that can say we're a one-loss team
The
like
only
Oregon,
way
Texas.
they still have an opportunity, but they better hope Louisville doesn't lose.
Yeah, see, I know that their margin for error is 0. I think they're out too, because I think if they become one of the one-loss teams, I think Oregon's better one-loss record. I think Bama's better one-loss record. I think the Michigan Ohio State losers are one-loss.
I do agree with that, and that's where your scenario of playing Wake, Virginia Tech, and Syracuse comes in a factor. But once again, that's just their schedule of the conference they're in. And
I agree.
Like you say, the LSU is a great win. Clemson doesn't help them. And the Louisville win would be the best, but they better hope Louisville does not lose.
Yeah.
Because Louisville,
come on, Kentucky.
Because if Louisville wins this week, they're going to be in the top 10.
Yeah,
because 2 of the top 10 is going to be out.
Right, either Penn State or Ole Miss will be out of there.
Yeah, so Louisville's going to be in the top 10. So that could help them in the long run, but they still would need a lot of help.
It's how good Kentucky's going to beat them in 2 weeks. So
yeah. I'm just
all right, buddy.
I'm just going along with you, man. You're trying to find any reason. you got to find a way.
I was going to wear my.
You trying to find a way to get some Florida State slander in here.
I was gonna wear my Miami pullover that my boy David Cooney, the assistant Miami player personnel director down there, hooked me up with. But I was like, you know what? I don't want to give any bad juju to your boys. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. So
like we need more bad juju at the quarterback.
I know, right? Position. I'll pull it out. Maybe I'll wear it on Saturday and sit next to Ricky on the couch.
Yeah, he'll love it.
I know.
He's going to be garnered and gold out.
Yeah. So basically, you got to dip early. He's got to dip early just because he's got to work, and you got a flight to catch. Yeah. So are we going to make it through the Georgia Ole Miss game?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We're just not doing Pac-12 after dark.
There you go. You go. I'm just not doing Pac-12 after dark. I mean, I don't have a super early flight, but
yeah, maybe we'll watch the first quarter and it might already be over.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't have a super early flight, but yeah.
All right. Well, I got.
It's not early, but it's long as shit.
I got your steaks on deck, buddy. So we're gonna enjoy a nice steak dinner this weekend.
As Ricky say, don't start the grill at like midnight.
Nah, I told you. I'm gonna fire it up at.
Hey, we're not in Gainesville anymore. Where you fire up the grill at 1 a.m.
Exactly. No, trust me. Like I say, Hayden and I, we eat like early birds. Cruz has this on that early schedule. So the only reason we didn't eat early for Florida, Georgia was because we thought Cruz was going to hang out. And instead he didn't. And then we're like, all right, I got to put this dude to bed and blah, blah, blah.
I'm just saying, your track record says you fire up the grill like at midnight.
I do.
1 a.m.
I do. I like cooking late. I do. But we can fire that thing up at freaking noon and watch the Big 12 game or the big noon kickoff, baby. Penn State.
Well, I know who's going to be fired up for that game.
All right, so I'm expecting you to be here at 12 o'clock then.
No, I wasn't talking about me. I know Chad's going to be there.
Negative. He won't be.
He refuses to leave the house during Michigan, Penn State.
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't want a repeat of Ohio State, Michigan last year.
He's stealing signals right now is what he's doing. He's the new stealing
speaking
signals.
of that, you see the story about my man is a bad
vacuum
engineer.
Salesman? I was going to say, did you see the vacuum salesman?
That's what I'm talking about. Vacuums.
Okay, yeah. No, he's
Michigan story, man. It just gets.
It's pretty good.
And now they got a lawsuit against who is it?
Ohio State,
Purdue.
Yeah, they conspired that they were handing out their signals and they given it on spreadsheets and all that stuff. Yeah, no, the story is going to be a great movie one day.
Yeah. Somebody's going to have to pick that up, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a 30 for 30 documentary on ESPN, HBO, or Netflix. Somebody pick that one up.
Yeah, at some point we need to just have a segment of crazy stories of this past college year.
No, for sure. Like I say, definitely we're going to figure out a format for next year, and we'll continue. I was already thinking, after this is over, we'll continue on and do NFL. We'll just pick up the NFL because we talk ball, baby. We know ball.
Yeah, why not?
So,
We talk about my sorry ass Bears having the 2 pick and the 3 pick in the NFL draft, and hopefully, we need to beat Carolina tonight to make sure we solidify them having that second pick.
It's crazy how many damn primetime games y'all had, man. I feel like y'all been on.
It's Chicago. We're in the top 3 media market in the country.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Well, I told you about how one of the guys that works for the Blackhawks he went to the Denver game. Take a wild guess how much the ticket was.
I have no clue.
$350.
Good night.
It's crazy. That terrible product.
That's wild because I was just looking at tickets randomly today for like the Niners game Saturday. And it's like you can get $80 tickets in the 400s.
Well, yeah.
You can sit.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, you can sit in the lower bowl. You can sit in the lower bowl end zone for like $200 for the and the money. I was looking at the Monday night game too for Cincinnati. So
how much were they?
Same $80 in the uppers and about 200 lower end zone.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah,
we could talk some NFL. I mean, just something to talk about, right? I mean,
because I definitely don't want to talk college basketball, not college basketball.
Oh, because I don't feel like hearing about the Gators. You already
want to know right now. Did you see the newest signing they got? The guy's like 7'6". Looks like he's playing against
garbage too.
I got to send you the video. It looks like he's playing against little kids, dude. Like he's barely just like dunk. Like it's
obviously he's no Wimby.
He goes to IMG.
He's no Wimby.
No, he's not. But it's like this kid just dunk it every time, man. Just get it in, just turn it.
Who's the coach? Who's y'all's head coach?
Todd Bronze.
Graham?
No, it's Golden.
Graham Golden, same difference.
Bronze medalist. He's a secondary loser. He's gonna be fired in 2 years.
Yep. That's what I'm gonna be rooting for. Everybody against the Gator basketball team. So I don't have to get a text message. Oh,
I should just text you if we lose too. I'll just text you if we lose too.
I'd rather you not. You imagine if I text you every time Miami played?
I know. You send it on. I'll tell you if they win or lose.
No, I know. I watch the basketball. I watch some basketball games.
I mean, the Canes were good last year.
They're good this year. They're top 15.
That's what I'm saying. They're good.
We got a lot of guys back.
You got Orchad. Who'd y'all lose to? FAU, San Diego State. Who was it?
No, we lost in the championship game, fool.
Oh,
we lost to UConn.
I didn't make it. Who did y'all beat? Man. Did y'all beat San Diego State?
We beat Texas, San Diego State.
That's how much. That's how much I don't remember the damn Final Four last year.
I just remember if I was a Gator fan.
I just remember FAU making it to the Final Four.
I wouldn't either if I was a Gator fan last basketball season.
So
we got a good team.
When's baseball season start?
Oh yes, hopefully we get you guys this year.
All right,
game's down in the Gables this year.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Man. We appreciate y'all.
Yeah, the last 10 minutes were just
we're just talking some ish. That's what we do. Don't be mad. This is what we do on a daily. So appreciate all the listeners, lovers, likers, subscribers, everybody.
Hey,
appreciate all y'all.
Shout out way more views than I thought. I mean, they're not like McAfee views, but everyone that's been watching, thank you. It's way more views than we gave ourselves credit for.
Yeah, no, we're getting some views, we're getting some likes. Everybody who listens to the podcast and gives it a shot, they end up saying, "You guys are good. We like what you're doing." You know, all that good stuff. So we appreciate
anybody who we appreciate it.
We appreciate the support that is our family and friends, mostly family.
CF, I know CF's going to listen to the end. CF, I love you.
She is. Roll Tide, go Gators. It is what it is.
All right.
Go Canes.
Let's go.
Slit. Let's go.
Hopefully we pull up the upset. I don't see it, but anything's possible.
Like I say, we'll be here Saturday watching it all, Faro and I, with our homeboy, Big Rick. And like I say, we'll grill some steaks at 3:30 for the kickoff. How about that? Steaks on kickoff. Would that be good? You want steaks early or at halftime of that game? When would you like them prepared?
It's just not at 1 a.m. because I won't be there.
Okay.
I won't be there at 1 a.m. And somehow I might still be there at 1 a.m. I don't plan on it. Like I said.
True that. All right, my boy. All right, my peoples.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate y'all. We'll holler. We'll see y'all next week on a week 12 edition after this big slate of big-time games, the big rivalry game, Florida LSU, Miami, Florida State. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Later.